Howdy, howdy, lads, MVs, and lasses. If you live in the Harris Branch neighborhood, my name is Anthony, and I'm your neighbor. For those of you who have been subscribed or been wondering where the last videos have been, we took a break. I just finished up wrapping the remodel in the primary bath. I'll throw some video and pictures of the completed bathroom and the before up on the channel here in the shorts section. If you weren't aware, I was in the middle of that remodel, so this place was not ready to do any recording, so that's why we were off. That also means this video is going to run a little bit longer than usual because there's quite a bit of stuff I wanted to cover. In addition, I am now an upstanding citizen, as you can see, so hopefully you'll stick around, hit like, comment, or hit subscribe so that way you get updated when these videos get posted. They come out once a month. All the important links are below in the description, so feel free to click any of those. That'll take you to Town Square where the meeting minutes are posted. You can also see the Facebook groups that the communities have started, as well as the Town Square link for accessing amenity access cards and getting yourself architectural change committee approval. That's all down there in the description below. Feel free to check it out. If any of those links are broken, let me know and I'll get them fixed. This video is for the July 20th meeting. There will not be one for the June or May one. We'll just wrap those up here. Most of that all got covered here anyways. The meeting, as I mentioned, starts at 6:30. You can always join via Zoom. That link is, as you can see on the screen. It is also sent out on Town Square. First order of business, call the meeting to order, establish quorum. That was done. All 5 members of the board were there this time, so good there. 2, we had a homeowner forum. This is where homeowners can voice their complaints, praises, or ask things of the board as they see fit. At this meeting, we only had 1 homeowner from Sterling Bridge. They were simply listening, so we moved on. 3, ratify prior June 15th, 23 community meeting minutes. This was completed. We voted and approved those. 4, we moved to the treasurer's report. Mike has been acting as the treasurer. Currently, there is not a treasurer on the board. This was discussed in previous videos, so you can go back and find out more about that. The May 30th financial review, there was $64,807 in the red for the yearly budget. A large piece of that was a $25,671 invoice that was paid incorrectly to Hines. It was paid extra. Goodwin's audit team caught this, so that will be returned. There was an additional fix that wasn't budgeted, at least out of the yearly budget. It came out of the reserve. This was for the playscapes there by the amenity center. The slide had broken, so we had to have that replaced at $2,078. They discussed raising dues. Of course, vehemently I am against dues. I think we should cut costs other places. We looked over the budget and noticed that a large amount of our costs are coming from irrigation. About $4K of that was from fixing irrigation, and a little over $3K was from just water. I believe it was $1,800-ish in wastewater, and then $4K in water that we were mainly using on turf lawns. I'm going to just put up this video here so you can see exactly how worthless this is. It doesn't do anything for the grass. However, on that point of the grass, we had a huge win that I was able to get done. The board all agreed that we will not be sending out fines for dead grass from July until October. So that way you don't run into the headache of, do I spend all this money on grass trying to keep it green during heat waves while also trying to comply with the city water restrictions? So you get closed in on both sides. We said, hey, that's silly. We're not going to put you in that position anymore. So we are not going to be sending out those notices to any homeowners who have dead grass. We expect, that grass will recover once we get back into the rainy seasons and cooler months. No need to waste our drinking water on that now. One of the issues that came up with this overpayment to Hines is the pool company that did the coping and fixed cracks in the pool and replastered it. The concern is that this has happened before where Goodwin has overpaid invoices, and so we wanted to know how their process worked, where they audited those things to make sure we weren't double paying on things, because it's really up to the contractor to give it back to us if they notice that we've paid them more than once. So that's something that Raquel and her senior management are going over, and they're supposed to get back to us with that information. 5, the President's Report by Mike McLaughlin. He talked about the June pool movie and the July 4th parade. Both of those were successful. The street lights are continuing to be addressed by Raquel and Vanessa and Austin Energy, as well as Bluebonnet. There was talk about the vandalism at the fitness center. Somebody had broken the glass doors there, so those have been repaired. We're looking into reinforcing those so that way they're not as easily broken. I suspect it was just somebody threw a rock into it, either to gain entry to see if it was anything of value, which there wasn't, or to see if it was AC to get out of the heat. Mike also talked about the movie at the pool. There is one coming up. The information for that on the exact time and date and what movie will be shot out via email on Town Square. So if you haven't signed up for Town Square, please sign up. That's where you're going to get all this information from. The pool is obviously open. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get out the hours, I don't think, in my last video, but it is now open from 4:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. That should be year-round. The lifeguards should be there later in the morning, but if you're an early lap swimmer, feel free to get out there and get those laps in before it gets too hot or the crowds show up. There was a 5th grade graduation party. This, again, is a partnership between the HOA and that elementary school there. When they graduate, they ask to borrow our pool for the kids. We always oblige and let them have fun at the pool to celebrate their graduation. He talked about the bike rack and the ADA ramps for the new building. This has been a point of contention still for the complete certificate of occupancy. He mentioned that the pool is obviously all fixed and good to go, and the slide, as I mentioned earlier, has been replaced at the park. 6, the community manager report. There's been 56 requests, mostly about ACC, Architectural Change Committee. There's a video I'll link to the end of this on what that is and how you can do that. There are still pending pesticide bids for the Community Amenity Center. Mainly, they're looking into addressing fire ants on the playground. One of the issues has been the poison traps for the rodents. They unfortunately are not the most ideal, as they poison and then our birds of prey and other animals around here eat them and then themselves die. So we're looking into ways to mitigate rodents without causing ecological harm to those unintended victims. Raquel covered the fitness center bids. They're still trying to figure out. We really want to go ahead and remodel the whole thing. It's a little bit outdated, and the cost to do the repairs on a lot of the equipment sort of makes it not economical. So we're looking for bids on complete remodels, and that should be happening hopefully sometime in the next couple of months once we zero in on a contractor who we feel is up for the job. Of course, during that time, the gym will be closed, but I think it will be well worth it to have it updated and remodeled. We got signs completed. We were having folks doing illegal dumping at the amenity center, and then there was a neighborhood concern about an area on Farmhaven where dumping was happening along the road. We've got private property signs, no illegal dumping signs up, so that way now if there's a situation, the board can press charges and we can get APD involved if anyone is caught on video or in the act of dumping in these areas. As mentioned earlier, there was a bunch of sprinklers that got fixed, new controllers were installed, they put in remote monitoring. We've had an incident where some of the no fishing signs at the ponds were stolen. Those have been ordered. I believe those have been installed at this point. As a reminder, there is no fishing at those ponds. One, the ponds are not stocked for fishing, and secondly, the catch and release ends up hurting the fish in a way that they end up dying, and since those ponds aren't restocked, we lose a lot of the fish life in those ponds because of infections and stuff from the hooks going in and out of them constantly, on top of all the runoff from neighbors using pesticides and herbicides and all sorts of fertilizers and things that run into those creeks. We went to neighborhood representatives. That's David Alley. He mentioned not much, just trash complaints on St. Marin and Harris Branch Parkway. We do have a new porter pending, ATX Solutions. Once we finalize that bid, we'll have a new contractor picking up trash and taking care of those areas. We suspect that we'll see a decrease in the amount of trash that we find, but keep in mind all it takes is one truck going down Harris Branch Parkway with an open bin or a trash truck going down it, and it'll look like it never got cleaned. However, we're pretty confident, at least in the areas where trucks are not going through, we should see an improvement for reduction of trash. B, architectural change. There was just question about painting brick. There was questions about horizontal planks versus vertical planks for your fences. There was a question about pre-approved colors. That way folks could get auto-approved. Essentially, the board stated that as regards to horizontal versus vertical, submit what it is that you want to do and let the ACC board decide. I suspect it's going to be, if it looks good, it'll get approved. If it doesn't look good, it won't get approved. I don't see any disadvantage to allowing different styles of fences. If you look at high-end neighborhoods, they don't all have the same fence. In fact, they have very different styles of fence. And as long as the fence is functioning in the way that's needed and looks good, it seems irrelevant whether the tines are going up and down or left and right. There was concern about painting brick. As far as I understand, you don't really want to paint brick because it impacts the breathing of the building. However, there's a lot of resources online. You can look into that. I know there's been a few buildings that have been painted white. Now, in the event that the brick was black or something before, I could see heat reduction savings there. However, if you want to do that, please submit the ACC request to get that approval before you start the work. Communications. Town Square, again, please sign up. The link's below. That's where all this information is posted. You'll get updates via email. You can turn them off if you don't want them. You can go there to see when the meetings are, anything that's posted in regards to bylaws and CC&Rs. So it's a very valuable resource. You can open complaints there for Goodwin to address as well. So worth the effort to go and sign up. In the event, one of the questions for communication that came up in the event of emergency, who should you contact first? Obviously, the first contact should be Raquel. Then the second contact should be the emergency maintenance line Goodwin has, which is 24/7. I will put that number below in the description as well, so you can keep that on hand. Arts and Craft with Sharon Campbell. That's October from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. That will also be sent out via Town Square. So keep an eye out for that. If you want to participate as a vendor or just to go check it out, absolutely make the effort to go there and meet some of your neighbors and see what they can do. The dog park group. They have started doing a weekly meeting. I am going to set up right here. There is a WhatsApp chat for dog owners who want to meet up. One of the big things that came away from that meeting was dog owners wanted to coordinate with other dog owners so they could go up there and have their pups play. There was quite a few issues that came out of that in regards to shade, seating, the fence in regards to dogs being able to get underneath it, as well as the question of can homeowners add things to the dog park on their own. Essentially, what I explained to them that if you want to put out picnic tables with umbrellas, or if you have someone who can build some of those solar sail shade structures, that's absolutely okay. I don't see any issue with the board having any reluctance to that. In fact, it would probably be pretty welcome. There was a homeowner who made a dog run. I'm not sure if he ever took it out there. I know he was wanting to donate it. I had asked him if he could do solar sails for shade, as the trees out there are still growing, and we're still working on a contract with Sunscapes to get an additional 15 or so trees out there. Of course, that won't be done until early fall when it's best to plant those. In regards to the fence, the issue with it being too high, there used to be a large mason bricks all around the bottom of that fence. Unfortunately, those have disappeared, so now it's very easy for dogs to get in and out of the small pen to the large pen. We're still figuring out a way to mitigate that. Unfortunately, if we put those bricks back out, they'll probably just get picked up again. So we're trying to figure out another way to address that without completely redoing the fence. So join the WhatsApp chat, meet your neighbors, let your dogs meet each other, and have a good time out there. The Emergency Planning and Safety Committee. This is spearheaded by Vanessa and Valerie. This is more of a regurgitation of important information that the city or local groups have or have given to us that we want to disseminate out into our neighborhood, so that way you're aware of things as far as emergencies for fires or other weather events, heat waves, stuff like that. So that's still in the works, getting that figured out, but I suspect that will be a great asset for the community. The Neighborhood Enhancement Committee. As I mentioned, I already talked about the streetlights. We did a survey, so if you didn't participate, probably do more in the future, but we got 107 responses, 82 different types of responses. The number one thing that everybody wanted was more community events, pool improvements, which most of those have been completed already, especially the hours have been extended, upgrading the basketball court, the tennis court, and pool lighting. So right now we're working on getting the lighting fixed at the basketball court and the overhead lighting working at the pool. We got to make sure the electrical wires are good before we replace the bulbs up there. Another piece that I talked about previously was the green wall I've been working on in St. Marin. Currently I have 2 bids for that. Unfortunately, for the budget this year, it's going to be outside of it, so we'll have to look at things we'll need to take away from next year to get that covered and moving along so that way we can start getting some more greenscapes in here and improving the aesthetics and the greenery of the neighborhood. One item that is important that I'm working on currently is to get a tree trimming service completed. Essentially, we lost a lot of branches because the trees hadn't been trimmed in a very long time. Unfortunately, Sunscapes only covers up to the 12-foot mark. Anything after that, they're not doing the thinning. So when we have these ice storms, that's a lot of weight on those branches, and they break, and that costs a lot of money to get fixed. So we need to stay on top of the trimming of the trees, and we need to increase the amount of mulch that we're putting around those trees so that way they can weather these extreme heat events. Moving on to old business, the property manager welcoming program and orientation process. That is pretty much complete. Two A's here, Alamo Concrete Settlement offer for the lien. This is where we got a little bit more information, so I'll share this with everybody so you can understand what's been going on with the amenity center. There are multiple actors involved in this process. There is Place Design, which was the architect that we hired to design the building. There is Cooper, which was the contractor that was hired to build the design. What happened is the city, in my opinion correctly so, wanted 6-foot wide sidewalks for ADA compliance, for micromobility. Cooper, the contractor, had told us, the HOA, that they had gotten approval from the city for 5-foot sidewalks. However, when things went south with Cooper, we found out that they didn't actually have approval from the city. So we've been stuck with city approval because the plans were submitted with 6 feet and the actual build only has 5 feet. What's happened now is we have to go back, resubmit the plans with the 5 feet, and hopefully the city will give us that exception to give us that approval. So we've now turned to Place, the architects, to help us get this done because they're the ones who have that sort of paperwork and know-how on how to get this submitted. However, they've kind of been dragging their feet, so we'll see how that goes. Essentially, after that, we should be good to go. Once they approve the 5-foot sidewalks, we can do the final walkthrough, send over the paperwork, and then we can finally have occupancy in that building. So that's kind of where the saga, the tea, as you would say, the hot tea, is in regards to the amenity center and why it's been taking so long. Community enhancement enrichment goals. Those have been set up and shared on Town Square, I believe, so won't spend too much time on that. The fitness center repairs and new replacement equipment, I talked about that earlier. The Porter Service bids, I've already talked about that. We've got the vote in and are ready to move forward with ATX Solutions. Call to action, sidewalk repairs, road repairs, and bike lanes. This is something I wanted to go over with you. I appreciate all of you who submitted for this. You might have gotten a response, but if you didn't, here's the response from the city. I will read it out to you so that way if you're just listening along, you can hear it. And if you want a copy of this, just comment below and I can forward it to you. So this comes from Matthew Selfridge. They said, thank you for contacting the City of Austin Transportation and Public Works Department via 311. I work in the Transportation Engineering Division and have reviewed your 311 request. Many other community members have also shared these concerns in the area, so I would like to share information regarding concerns on both Farm Haven and St. Marin. City of Austin Transportation and Public Works Department understands and shares your concerns about speeding. TPW managed the Speeds Management Program to address speeding concerns and has created a process to evaluate and prioritize streets for speed mitigation treatments on Level 1 and Level 2 streets, similar to residential and collector streets. This new approach includes a balanced consideration of crash history, the built street environment, adjacent land uses such as schools and parks, and speed profile. To meet this goal, TPW has created an evaluation procedure to proactively prioritize streets for speed mitigation treatments and a data-driven approach outlined here. There's the traffic calming methodology. Hopefully they don't put in speed bumps, but instead do other things so that way we're not getting a bunch of wear and tear on our vehicles to stop speeding, but rather are stopping speeding with other methods that don't hurt our cars. The speed management program utilizes a variety of traffic calming tools to slow vehicles. Austin Transportation developed a traffic calming toolkit, a toolbox of speed mitigation strategies and treatments that may be applied in isolation or in combination. We're going to skip ahead here. Farm Haven Road is classified as a Level 1 local street and is eligible for consideration in the speed management program. Speed data was collected on Farm Haven in 2020 of February. St. Marin is also a Level 1 local street and eligible eligible. Speed data was collected on St. Marin in April of 2022 and is being used to consider the street for the program. To see the current citywide street rankings for project selection, please visit. So you guys can always, if you want this email, get this link and go here. Additionally, Farmhaven Road and St. Marin were placed in the queue to have dynamic speed display devices installed for both directions, display driver speed to provide a visual cue and bring awareness to the drivers of their speed. These devices are installed for 6-week rotation periods, and the current queue length is approximately 6 months. So we are in the queue, at least. I think one of the big takeaways from this is we spoke up, and we are now on the city's radar. I think we might do more rounds of giving pressure to the city to see if we can bump up in the queues. I know one of the biggest things for a lot of city improvements is buy-in from the community. So the more of us who say, yes, we want this, the more of us who say, please put this in, the more likely they're going to do it, because the last thing they want to do is come out and put these things in and then get a bunch of complaints about them being in. So we had requests for bike lanes. Many community members also expressed desire for bike lanes. Farmhaven and St. Marin are both identified as potential projects for improved bicycle facilities in the All Ages and Abilities Bicycle Priority Network. The Active Transportation and Street Design Division has been informed of the community support and is considering the streets for the possibility of future projects. So that's a big win. Again, I don't think we were even on the radar for the city based off of these responses from them. So this is very good. Lastly, the transportation. This is in regards to pavement and sidewalk conditions. Engineering Division received concerns for pavement and sidewalk conditions, and we have relayed those general concerns to the Street and Bridge Division, which maintains the pavement infrastructure. To help, then they give us how to put in the requests. If you can, I'd recommend going out and taking pictures of the road on St. Marin and Farmhaven where it's all messed up, and then submit that through 311. That way we can get additional eyes on this and they know where to go. We don't necessarily have potholes. We just need a complete resurfacing. So hopefully that will spur the city into doing something. The sidewalk issue, that has been a little bit more of an interesting piece. We have noticed that unfortunately what the city does is comes out and just puts asphalt in between the pieces of sidewalk to, I guess, stop the tripping hazard. It looks like shit, honestly. And unfortunately, that is going to be their answer for sidewalk issues. So the board, we've been talking about hiring somebody, or at least offering somebody the potential for business to go out and check all the sidewalks in the neighborhoods and then come up with a bid for either shaving or using foam to get those things leveled, so that way we can address one of the major complaints that we've been having. And honestly, it's really been the city who's supposed to be taking care of these. Fortunately, I don't think that the way that they're going to take care of them is the way that we want, so that's why we're checking in on this other avenue. But feel free to submit and complain about the areas. Just be aware that they might just come out and put asphalt in the cracks, and that will be what they tell you is the fix. All right, and then there's Matthew Selfridge, the Transportation Engineering. So again, huge shout out. Thank you so much for everyone who participated. We will probably do more rounds of these to get more attention and maybe hop the queue when it comes time. The summer movie, here we go. At the pool, July 29th will be when that movie is. Again, the time, I believe, will be posted on Town Square. So if you want that information, go sign up for Town Square. H, the amenity center enhancement. We've been talking about doing pickleball. Valerie wants to do a volleyball court, a horseshoe, and tetherball. Essentially looking at doing enhancements that engage older children, not just the little kids on the playground. So hopefully the budget will work out in a way that we can get some of these things done next year. But those are on the horizon, at least with the current board. Community Enhancement Enrichment Committee. VP noted adding a tree wall on Blue Goose Road. So that kind of fell off. But it will still be on my agenda. Don't you worry. I'm going to get those trees in no matter what. We're still right now focusing on maintaining the trees that we have, as well as starting the green wall along St. Marin as the first in that piece of business. J, the mainline irrigation repairs. This I kind of talked about again with spending all this money on watering turf grass. Video again, not worth it. K, 2022 audit that's been approved. We have an auditor in the works. And L, the HVAC repairs. That was in the fitness center. The HVAC system had clogged because the filter had not been replaced. Fortunately, the company Unruh, who we had hired to maintain those things, didn't keep up with that. So it was clogged, caused the system to freeze up, and then we had a leak where we had to go and do an emergency turnoff, do drywall repair, and we are working on getting bids to finalize fixing that bottom pan that started to rust out. So with ATX Solutions, this should not be a problem. And so farewell, Unruh. 9 for new business. Like I mentioned, we were talking about looking into a vendor to do the sidewalk repairs, as mentioned earlier. We're working on the lights for the basketball court and pool. I talked about no more fines between June to October for dead grass. Please consider xeriscaping. There's a lot of great resources and rebates from the city for you to do a water-wise landscape where you don't need to keep up with turf grass. And if you have to do grass, I highly recommend using buffalo grass. It's a native species, does very well here. It doesn't use a lot of water and looks great. We additionally had a vote to install a gate. I'll put up a picture of the location of this. We had an issue a long time back, and unfortunately the previous board at that time decided to launch into sort of an arms race with our neighbors' kids. There was some children who were knocking out tines at that fence who were using it as an easy way to go and play at the playgrounds and the basketball courts and at the pool. At the time, I recommended we install a gate. Unfortunately, Gary Belcher, Mike McLaughlin, and David Alley were vehemently against installing this gate. They made claims of liability, despite our attorney very clearly stating we would not be liable. They made claims about not capitulating to, as they called them, vandals. I said, these are our neighbors' children, and we should be working alongside of our community. And if there's a way we can make access to the amenity center easier, it makes more sense to put in this gate than it is to engage in the arms race. Well, needless to say, many years gone by of replacing the tines, reinforcing them. And so at this point, luckily, with the coalition between Valerie, myself, and Vanessa, we were able to get a vote for approval to install that gate. That gate will still, of course, be child-proof. It will be up to code as far as a pool gate will automatically close and a child can't open it on their own. That was a huge win to mend a old wound I think that this community needed to address. So shout out to Vanessa and Valerie for helping move that one past the goal. And we also talked about elections. You probably saw that the election application already went out in the newsletter. I'm not sure if that's much earlier than it usually is. The 3 people up for election is the president, Mike McLaughlin, the board member, David Alley, and then we have Vanessa Cias, I believe is how she pronounces it, up for election. I'm a big fan of Vanessa, and we definitely need 2 new younger people on the board. So please get your application in. And in your application, let us know if you live in the neighborhood. It's been come to my attention that we have a current member who's up for re-election who doesn't live in the neighborhood, and we've had a previous member on the board who didn't live in the neighborhood. In my opinion, if you're going to serve on the HOA board, you need to live in the neighborhood that you're going to be making decisions for. It seems like a no-brainer, but that additional question will be on the application moving forward. So look at who answers that and who doesn't when you're picking new candidates. We also had another win for the HOA and homeowners. We found out that the Goodwin was adding a $7.93 HOA fee in the other amount when they were sending out fees to y'all. And it turns out they were just putting that into the bank account for other to use as, I guess, for budget. We, of course, found that out, immediately said, no, we're not doing that. So we struck that. So fees should come down by $7.93. So that's another big win in keeping money in our neighbors' pockets as well as ours. The big piece that came out, this is something I've been working on for a long time. Unfortunately, we didn't have a coalition that was interested in pursuing this, but a major issue with our HOA bylaws is there's a 67% homeowner approval required to get any amendments done to our bylaws. This is something that I would like for us to remove. The board has voted. Of course, our coalition voted in approval. Mike and David are very much against this. The idea is to set up, for however long it takes, a voting period to get 67% of homeowners to vote. And it could still be voted down, don't get me wrong. To vote on removing the 67% threshold that essentially makes it virtually impossible to get anything changed, and we want to reduce that down to 27% of homeowners. There's additional amendments we'll add in there, so that way large corporations or firms who come in and buy a bunch of homes aren't going to get all the votes from off each property. They would be relegated to simply one vote. You can't stack properties and then take over kind of thing. But that is something that we'll be working on, so expect that coming out. We'll be through SurveyMonkey. We'll send out mailers. It's going to be a long, long thing because we've got 2,020 people in the neighborhood. Many of them don't even live in the neighborhood. They're renting out. So it's going to be a long struggle. Hopefully next year I'll get reelected and I can keep going on this. But that is something to look forward to. With this removal of 67%, we're talking we can do things like expand the board. We can have more than just 5 members. We can expand the ACC. We can set term limits. We can have votes on whether or not we want to have chickens in the neighborhood. We can have votes on things that come up all the time in regards to, do you want a fence in your front yard? Those are all things that we can at least take away from the previous developers who made it so you can't really do much, and give back to us, and we can make those decisions, right? Just keep in mind, none of this is approved. It can always get voted down. But the reality is not enough people participate to get 67% members to vote on anything, so we need to move that to a much more reasonable number. That way people can get a sense of community, a sense of control back in their lives and what we do with the community, instead of just seeing the 67% daunting task and going, yeah, no way, whatever, I'll just go on and watch my Netflix. So that's coming up. I hope everybody's on board with it. I know we'll have a few naysayers, but if you can understand the potential that will unlock once we can get rid of that, we can do a lot more stuff in the neighborhood. We can adjust, because considering the bylaws are from the 90s, they are severely outdated and not up to times. So please, please, please support it. Let everybody know it's coming down the pipeline. I'll be pumping it as far as it goes when it comes to voting, and we'll go from there once it's out. 10, the executive meeting. There wasn't one. 11, adjourn meeting. So that's that. All right, hopefully that's been informative. I really appreciate everybody sticking with me through the break. I should be back up to date on these, so we'll be back once a month. Again, hit like, subscribe, comment below with any questions, concerns, or praises, and make sure to check out the links in the description so that way you can stay on top of what's going on in the community and join all the local groups that we have started up across the neighborhoods. And with that being said, y'all stay safe out there. Take care. Bye.